So, hello everyone again. There was this another thing that I saw, and it's not going to be a rant. It's just going to be some stuff shared. And there was this one Rose's interview. If you know Rose, she's a um Korean pop star that's known worldwide, and she shared this thing that I saw popping on my feed from another person on Twitter X. So, getting married and getting a house, why is that the status quo of being happy? Some people have miserable experiences there, and sometimes I feel like I'm so happy being a single girl. And yeah, this is the case. And further, I'll go on with adding my own wisdom thoughts. However, take this, I know that some people literally devalue what I say. It's sort of like, if I'm completely honest, it's because I'm jokey archetype at the same time as being a sage. And I'll take an example of from one game. It might seem really silly and childish, but there's this game, Genshin Impact, and there's a character Nahida. And she looks like a child. Well, there's a huge backstory to her. Why I'm saying mentioning this character first and foremost is because she was diminished because she is like a child. Well, she was extremely wise. She is an archon, aka like a goddess of wisdom in that setting of that game. And people tend to devalue this. While the real sage or knower have her wisdom in several sayings of ancient Chinese philosophers have been the true sage, like the true mm, wise one, is the one that has the innocence and both the wisdom. So I want you to count that in indeed. To those especially who have seen that I make some meme-ish stuff and videos, etc., yes, I want you to count this in. I do. Because first and foremost, this wasn't what I found out myself. I was told this by practitioners, actually. Esoteric practitioners. Several ones. And by one, I was pointed this thing and I looked into it on Google. I researched it and I was like, oh, actually, yes, that was years ago. I usually just channel things. I don't read up knowledge books. I channel stuff. I download things from the universe, from the cosmic reality. So, to continue. So, this thing about how as I said, getting married and getting a house, why is that the status quo of being happy? That some people have miserable experiences there, and sometimes I feel like I'm happy. I'm so happy being a single girl, and you're like, yeah. And I'll add for myself. It's because they ain't heart centered. Confuse passion, wanting to care and for care with love. They confuse that with love. Well, it's not the same thing. That passion plus care, they confuse that with love. Passion plus taking care. But that might not be actual love. And they confuse it with this. Because many of them don't have had heart chakra awakenings. They don't know what that feels like. They don't know what that is. They really might not know that. Plenty of them don't, because people have surfaced onto this materialism. very in depth, ingrained right now, especially with the technological development. Why I mention technological development is because we run with this reality, and even psychologically, our brain hasn't had the depth to adapt to this. And while we run, we're very distracted into that materialistic surface. We forget about ourselves in depth. When we forget about ourselves in depth, we forget about our soul to take care of it. We forget about that reality, that we have that inner energy within us. We forget about our soul, our core, our heart, and our true in depth wisdom that we have within, that we have to take care of that too. And so, yeah, it's because they ain't heart-centered. So I explained that. Confuse passion wanting for care with love without understanding what they need in depth. Again, I explained that. They settle for that comfortable surface. That is that materialistic surface, that comfort that they settle for. And, okay, cope with me. Let's continue. Sometimes to flex to friends, to family, to show them that you got that stability, or to flex to yourself. You can also be flexing to your past self, aka look at this. That's called that ego boost. It's like, look at this, what I got, but it's materialistic. That inner child could still be suffering. That inner wanting for care, for true compassion, empathy, emotional bond, depth of understanding could not be there. Could be on surface level. Something is there, but in depth, people could be literally going for years, and they do go for years in that materialistic, comfortable surface until they actually get to that crisis call. I call that crisis call. It's like top of the mountain edge, and they're like, okay, something's not right. What's happening? What's going on with me? And it's basically like when it rings from above, or however you call it, on top of that surface, that something's not right and they're not really following their true identity, their reality. Some people call it midlife crisis. I wouldn't attribute it to midlife crisis. Just happens frequently in midlife. It can happen because people have Saturn returns. Not so far from that, okay? Like 30s. Okay. And 30s to 40s, the middle start of 30s is Saturn return. And they get to that point, they're like, okay, I'm 30, 33. I'm like, what do I do? What's happening with me? I don't feel my partner anymore. I don't feel my or spouse anymore. I don't feel. It's because your heart's reality is having that surface call. If you don't answer it, you're gonna continue in that cycle of materialism. What do people do then? They attribute things to, okay, let's open our marriage, for example, or they're gonna cheat. Those are the materialistic things. Because a person that has worked on themselves are not going to cheat. When they know the in-depth truths, the empathy that they have towards themselves and others, they're not going to cheat, right? That's materialistic. They're not going to cheat. They're going to understand themselves, and they're going to compassionately contribute to the case. Even if that means cutting cords. Because they're wasting not only their time, the other person's time. And that's the reality people really don't want to seem to face, and I don't understand why. What is the problem? What is the problem that we really cling to this material reality so hard that we hurt ourselves? It's like clinging onto the like a wooden surface, and you like grab so hard that you hurt yourself. Your fingers are about to like fall off. You still hold on to this. It's crazy. It's like abuse. Why are you abusing yourself within? What's that? Abuse. That's an inner abuse. You are misleading your inner child, or you are abusing it. Or like the care. The Jungian, it's a Jungian, Carl Jungian term of both shadow work and the inner child. Let's say, okay. And that concept means having empathy towards your parts that others can give empathy towards in your childhood or when you grew up. And when you have a childhood and when you grew up, these are the parts when you could be like a sponge. That's normal. People are like sponges when they're children, and they could have gotten these types of realities that they have difficulty to surface onto. What is good and what is not? What is healthy, what's not? These types of boundaries. And that's what you show to yourself, first and foremost, in the sense of, I allow this to happen, I continue to go this path. And that's the painful road, because you understand. Perhaps you've been there too long. You have been allowing your inner child to be malnourished for very long. Of course, it's not just you. This is like two-sided contribution, right? If you stay somewhere, both the surroundings contribute and you contribute. You contribute because you stay there and whatever you do there, and the surroundings contribute to you also, whatever they do. So each side has to understand and learn their true reality, their true identity, what's happening actually within, in their heart space, in their heart chakra, and in their inner child psychologically, and their shadow psychologically, the subconscious, right? It really affects us. This is where we have been conditioned for long. But again, I don't want to encourage people to think they're broken. No. I just want to encourage them that we all can see. We all have the ability to see. We just need to do that. We just need to see. Okay? We just need to see the truth. Where's this stuff and where's that stuff? Where we're compassionate towards ourselves and understanding towards ourselves, at the same time where we're working towards ourselves and where we are contributing to our best or better version of self, and where we are the opposite, where we are not contributing to the best version of ourselves or bettering ourselves, where we're staying stagnant, stuck, feel confused oftentimes, but we still allow that reality. And to continue, that's a like shadow work cycle. Inner child, shadow, subconscious, and linking it to the conscious, to the light. What comes from the shadow into the light, and how it contributes to it, to your conscious thoughts, and where do they come from? Why do you devalue yourself, perhaps, that you stay in the reality? Why do you continue contributing to yourself in certain ways that you are contributing to? With certain people you are contributing to, because energy is important too. Boundaries are important, not just physically but energetically. All that happens. It's like, you know. To continue, I mentioned that, settling for the comfortable materialistic surface, and like sometimes to flex to friends, more or less to flex to family, to show people you got that stability, or to flex to oneself, okay? That inner part of reality that was never nurtured in the ways that you needed to nurture it. And not just in materialistic ways, you need to nurture it first and foremost psychologically and actually like spiritually. Body, mind, soul is an old concept, is an ancient concept. You can't just like confuse the reality and act up just in materialistic ways and pretend it's fine or it's gonna click, everything is gonna click into place. It's not going to. Especially if you feel like you're starting to question more and more. It becomes sort of a fog. You feel like it might be just materialistic. You need to look into it and question yourself. Because by questioning oneself, if your heart makes you question things, then you should look into the questions that arise in your mind and not just ignore them, but look them right in the face, answer them, reply to them. That's the best way you can avoid being in so called emotional misalignment. First and foremost, with your thoughts misaligning your feelings. This is really important to align because if you're aware of this, conscious of this, you really can work through things yeah, like, with conscious awareness, but like you can avoid these mental cracks that lead you to even depression, to stuck, stagnant periods of your life where you feel like you're lost, you know? So you contribute to your growth, your healing, your best self, and continue the path in healthy ways, okay? And have healthier boundaries with others and surrounding world, okay? When you know that your physicality comes with your soul or energy, because your energy is a valuable thing that you have and it's important. So to continue, it, like this type of living materialistically, like that type of like, oh, I have a home, I have a house, I have a family, I have this and that. It's like it becomes a checklist or a checklist to run away from somewhere to gain better life. Again, I understand if people ran away from somewhere and they had terrible circumstances where they ran from. I understand this and I resonated with this in my life. I've been through such things. I've been through horrible places and things. But you cannot lose yourself or start losing it for something that you thought is better but is not the best or better thing for you because you have never seen something better, especially if you come from toxic environment or semi-toxic. I don't care, like toxicity frequently is evaluated as something very on edge, like crazy, like I don't know, when someone's literally like super abusive, then it's like, oh yeah, we can witness that, that's toxicity. No, it can be subtle manipulation every day, you know. As a result you become hurt, you feel dismissed frequently. When you are people pleasing, when you have people that are user, like when you are people pleaser, you literally attract these leeches. They're all around you. Like, I'm sorry, I have to say this. You need to learn boundaries then. But okay, to continue. Wait, how to learn boundaries? Books of psychology is the simplest thing. Then a therapist, a good therapist. But like books of self-help books are great. But also connected to your intuition, your gut, because your gut and intuition, gut feeling means like the that inner inkling that you have, that you get, and then it turned out to be true. It's like it's your gut telling you. Okay, sometimes it might be like, okay, I'm really scared. Learn to decipher fear, that surface strong feeling from your gut that's deeper within and that's more subtle or silent. Okay, more subtle. on silent, it's like within you. But you also might get some stuff like you actually might get these confirmations as your actual third eye, like the place where there's third eye. You might feel like pulsation there. That might be extra confirmation for you to understand where your intuition stands, where things are reality. Okay, you might have that extra sense to it. That's like another addition to it, okay? Another addition. Pay attention to your senses, to your body, because it might not be wrong in cases when it really needs to warn you about some certain people or things. You gotta listen to it. You gotta learn to decipher these things and listen to it. Not just check into your anxiety, but like learn the intuition. You can do this. I mean, I've had some troubles with anxiety, like, or some traumatic experiences before stuff, but I learned to decipher when things are actually trying to, in patterns, trying to link me to something and tell me something, inform me of something, to truly gain that response, that intuitive response, and that sense that something could be linked to the truth, like 80% true, then you gotta pay attention to it. Even 70% to 60%, okay, it's linking, it's going someplace. It's like a lead that gets you someplace. You really gotta understand and learn to analyze these things. They will really help you in reality. And you can do this on your own. You can also meditate, pay attention to your senses. That's the way how you'll ground your body. You'll understand it better, your physical reality better. You might not confuse boundaries as much anymore, and you might learn the value and ability of your physical body, right? And yeah, to continue, I added a lot of side points here, so maybe that's helpful for somebody. I hope it is. So to add next, about the checklist I mentioned. So these things, these material flexes, so called, okay, they become a checklist, or a checklist to run away from somewhere, to gain better life. But as a result, one runs from themselves, okay, if they contribute to that path. And we all do at some point, really. Lesser or more. Don't compare, though. Don't compare to other people. Do best for yourself, do not compare. Just do as you can, in the sense, for your best self. Do pay attention to your own stuff and use useful things in order to get your stuff settled. Because a comparison is just counterproductive, and you want to be productive for your own self and for your own healthy well-being, in your best self, spiritually, physically, mentally. Again, no perfectionism in that type of sense, like, you don't need to be perfect, mind you, but just be your better contributor to yourself, in the sense of being balanced, balancing these things and understandings, balancing your, again, subconscious shadow aspect with your conscious light aspect, to understand your thought patterns better and your feelings better, because they are important and your soul is valuable. Okay, to continue, yeah, but as a result, when it becomes a checklist, or a checklist to run away from somewhere, as a result, one runs from themselves. And then come psychologist visits, why things ain't the way they should be, right? At that point of life, like, aka midlife crisis, or however you want to call it. Saturn return can really be linked to this closely. Can be the first point where you're like, oh, what, but why and this and that. Okay, okay, something's happening. But yeah, but you are just in the wrong mind space toward yourself, first and foremost. And sometimes people learn, like Eki, as they refer as too late. Yeah. Oh my god, I got confirmation. But if that ain't, I mean, like lots of going through bodies, like commonly referred to and known as like when you channel spirit, and I'm channeling and at the same time like getting the divine type of information, connecting it to reality and psychology, and let's say like reality, like materialistic reality that we live in, physical reality we can more so observe, although psychology is like, well, yeah, we can observe that, we can somewhat, like to some extent, even though it's very close to esoteric reality if you think about it. Plenty of things are like kind of metaphysical in that type of sense, but you can observe emotions. Although again, you might find some links really connected to esoteric reality or aka metaphysical if you think about that type of stuff and sense in psychology. Okay, so like the non-observable things that we can't really like get a physical, in fact, consensus with. Okay. There are scientific conducts to this, but like in actual physical sense, like we could get in physics, it's different. It's not really as observable for reality in that type of a sense, but it has patterns. But again, metaphysics have patterns too. So, but it's less observed because it's very complex. Anyways, getting back to it, I'll actually read all of these points just separately before adding the extra points to what I already explained, okay? I'll read the text separately because it might be a bit too messy for somebody to understand, so I'll read it separately. But yeah, sometimes people learn too late, but if there ain't kids yet, you're lucky. You found yourself or your real purpose, or you got that, that zing moment, Saturn return, or however you call it. And better faster than never, You also lose time and effort of the other person if you lead them on. Yeah, it's like part of leading them on. Many don't want to face this and want to hang on to not work. Like they want to hang on to the situation because it's, well, I already explained it, I think. It's easier for some time, but in the long run, it's actually pretty awful. If you really like face this, it's pretty awful in the long run. I like to say that there's this tunnel and there's this picture in the ending of the gallery. You might walk the long road, like slowly, really slowly through that tunnel. You might watch the walls, pay attention to something else. But when you finish that tunnel, there's still that picture, and it's moving you to that picture. There's only that picture, let's say. And that subconsciously you might actually have inklings. Okay, that's my true self, that's my true reality, that's my true response, that's my true feeling, that's my true thought, that's my true value. That's my true soul resonance in the end when you get to this. But many don't want to face this. And they hang on to with distracting themselves. Because that work means going towards that picture. And that picture might not be pretty for them. In the sense of like, you might need to work on that picture. You might need to add some connect it like a puzzle. There might be some broken pieces that you might want to connect it to the puzzle. The picture might not be whole in the sense of not you being broken. No, you're not broken. You might have forgotten some of the pieces that you need to reconnect to yourself. And forgotten in the sense that they are dormant. I like to say these places in our soul are dormant, until we have that type of click or cling awakening, and then we reconnect these pieces together. Sometimes we might have different vibrations attached to us and they might be malfunctioning. That's a different case. Um, how to recognize it? I'd say when you have mind fog, or that so-called brain fog, or when you have mental discrepancies, when you start to act in very different ways and weirdly, and you don't feel that inner core resonance of your soul or your strength within, when you don't have it, and when you start to devalue yourself, when you start to question your identity or question the things that you could do before, but you feel like you cannot do them anymore, or you are absolutely different type of a person, you cannot have these abilities anymore, or do these things anymore. That's when you, that juju, this all mix with low self ability of recognition or lowering, and you start to feel you're lowering in that sense, you start to feel you're going through that mud, you start to feel you're going through that foggy deal. It's going getting foggy. Okay, it's getting foggy. Oh my god, confirmation. I did hear that song Foggy Dew like 2 months ago, and I was like, why Foggy Dew? I had it. This down the glen one Easter morn, the city fair all day. And that's a song by the Young Dubliners. You might want, somebody might want to check this out who watched this. They are in the blue uh background on stage. That's that version where they're like on blue stage performance, and I saw that exact version, and I was like, why Foggy Dew? And now I understand, because somebody didn't see their true potential, and it was a wake-up call. Saturn, they could have had Saturn return, and many things click together now, and they connect together now. Someone's starting to gain their true soul recognition. You're not just a possibility, you are the potential. You're the true self. You're starting to feel your true heart, your resonance, your true self. This is amazing. Oh my god. Okay. So, yeah, to continue, it's like I described this thing. I hope this helped somebody to understand when they're like sort of malfunctioning, when there's this like when you gotta cling onto these soul through soul vibrations, maybe meditate, maybe start to understand your thoughts, why you're persisting certain ways, and where you are, what you're surrounded by and with. This is so freaking important. You gotta understand, because people have the ability to absorb other people's energies. Okay, they literally are in someone's energy. They react. The energy reacts. The energies interact with one another. You gotta pay attention to your surroundings first and foremost, and then what your thought patterns are, why you're in this reality, how it affected you, because even energetically you might be affected in certain ways by certain people. Okay, different people, different ways. Different life paths affect different life paths differently too, in different life purposes. Sometimes someone serves a purpose to us as either a karmic friend or karmic relationship, karmic parent, or whatever. Okay, aka learning. They might not be there for life, they might be there for learning and for that experience, and it's an important experience to have. And sometimes I'm sorry if they might be harsh experiences like this. I have empathy for that. But like, yeah, let's get back to the topic. Let's get back to the topic because it's really long. I mean, yeah, okay. So it's important to face this reality in your true self. And while you see yourself as a possibility, you are not going to see your true self and potential. And I said, someone's going through that. Someone's going through these foggy waters. They start to see the island. They start to see the true self and the actual potential that they can get to. Okay? That's the truth. That's your resonance. That's your reality. Go there. You go. Okay, you go, buddy. It felt it's like saying that. Anyways, many people live up to the checklist and they become checklists themselves. That's a whole saying. Okay, so don't become a checklist. You have your soul's vibration and you have a special path. You have it. Like you have an announcement to make in this life, in the sense of like, people put these special cases like as some Superman, Superwoman in some movies, but you don't understand, like, some don't understand that there's this domino effect in the sense that you might impact people in different types of ways. We have different types of set of abilities, and we are each individual, and we have special parts of ourselves, and we might truly impact someone in best ways possible, in the ways that we can't even imagine. As first and foremost, like, you might have spoken to a person at some railway and you might have impacted them positively, even with your energy. Sometimes your energy could be so potent you might have lifted up someone's mood without acknowledging this, and you haven't given this credit to yourself. I mean, don't, not to get too like pompous or like, whoa, like, yeah, I'm like going around like impacting people. I mean, some might be like really, like, I don't know, impacting people very strongly with doing some stuff and like, I don't know, something, and they could resonate with like, yeah, I'm like really working on these things. But even like small details are important to pay attention to. You might have a really tiny circle, or even one person that you talk to that needed some help, and you might impact them in positive ways and links. And you might have different creative purposes. You might be a genius mathematician, you might be a scientist, you might be a pharmacologist that really uh, feel it's nice for people to interact with. Or you might really give good recipes. You might have given someone a better case scenario than what they were suggested to have, for example. Or you might have told someone something really important about life, I don't know, when they really needed some type of a saying, and maybe they felt like they didn't know what to do, but then it got them to an aha moment, perhaps. Sometimes the things that we count as really dumb, or like, the heck even I said, but for another person it might be like, wait, that's why I saw that dream last night, or like, the wildest things can be connected. And even me, I discount such realities sometimes, like, I really put these things down. Well, sometimes you really have this type of an important purpose to just push that button, and things can happen for people, and it goes through that like butterfly effect, or how you call that, domino effect. I would say butterfly effect because, like, these plenty ways and links how it goes. It's like a multi mechanism that happens. And trust yourself more. Trust your intuition. Learn your intuition, your gut response, your trust in that reality. That you really can, by being your better self, bettering your version of yourself, you can better the purpose and reality around you. But first and foremost, you do this for yourself, to feel better about yourself, and you elevate your vibration. Okay? So that's the whole thing. So I really hope this helped somebody, and I don't know if someone needs me to read the whole stuff. Probably not actually, because I really ended this stuff nicely, I think, and I hope this helps somebody. Yeah, I really hope this helps somebody to understand that they're not a checklist. They don't have to become checklists themselves and live by checklist. You can mm, dictate parts of your reality and you can change yourself in actually more significant ways than you thought you can. It's like your mind solely, your brain, your thoughts that you've had could have had these patterns where you could have devalued yourself. But it's not the whole truth. Even by the understanding of science that we use a small part of our brain, how it functions, like the whole mechanism, small percentage. I mean, not small part, but like small percentage of it, its ability to work. Then imagine the same thing about your potential. It's like this percentage can rise, and there are plenty of things that we still don't know about how brain works. A lot of it is like still a mystery. And yeah. Um and we can observe around us like how many things happen and they seem absurd. So imagine if something seems absurd, then imagine like how you actually can contribute to your own reality. The things that you thought are absurd can happen. Then why can't absurd things that contribute to your best version of self happen? Think about that way. You might think something's absurd, but for somebody else, it's like, whoa, you really helped me, you know? So that's that. Think about that in that type of way. Every negative has a positive in a sense. Like, at the balance, every negative type of thought you have might have something positive. Not of the same thought, right? But a different principle. So think about it. It's the whole reality. Reality is a whole. So how much potential do you actually have? Okay? So I hope this helps somebody and thank you for listening. Yeah, someone might be really elevating, so yeah, give yourself the best of luck to you and give yourself, I guess, the credit that you deserve. Yeah, okay. Thank you for listening. Bye.